Podcasting with Ceri Jones.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's podcast. This week's guest has fished the River Usk for over 30 years, and he now guides on the Glan Usk Estate and at Gliffaes. I meet him at the Gliffaes Hotel, where we chat at the bar overlooking the river. He talks about how he got into fly fishing as a small boy. He's a qualified instructor for GAIA, and tells us of his love of casting, plus of his newfound passion of fly fishing for pike. Welcome to my chat with Justin Connolly. This is a nice place to meet up.
Not bad at all.
So this is your office during the summer, I guess?
Pretty much, yeah. 90% of my guidance through the Gliffaes.
What's the history of this place? It's family owned then, is it?
Yeah. It's been family owned for I don't know how many years. But the hotel part was originally built as a family home. The original building across the way there, the guy that owned that, his son built this for his house. From what I understand, he was quite high up in the church.
You can imagine sitting here, having a malt by the fire. And he just showed me actually something which I've never seen. Very often you see fish, mounts or cased fish or paintings. But there's a sketch of a £5 brown here, is it?
Yeah, £5, 7 ounce, yeah.
And we're sitting here now. I guess it's a snug just off the bar, really.
Yes.
You've had a few glasses in here in your time, have you?
One or two, yeah. Normally a lunchtime one with clients, but yeah, which can go the wrong way sometimes. But yeah, no, you gotta be careful.
I've done that myself in the past. When I was in Ireland, and you fish in, and then you stop for a break, you have one, and then you end up you don't fish in the afternoon.
Well, I've been out with so many guys. It's like, especially down on the estate, because for lunch you have to take them somewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas here you can come back to the hotel or have a picnic down on the river. And I've been with gangs of lads, and we've taken them over to the Nanty Fane or over to the Bear Hotel at lunchtime.
And the Bear is run by your sister, yeah?
Yeah, my sister and brother-in-law. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And we've been in there at lunchtime, and the guys are like, "Oh, this beer's pretty good, or this wine's pretty nice, we'll have another one, and they're like, "Just, do you mind if we just stay here for the afternoon? We'll pay you for the day, but we're just going to stay here." So
yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, you crack on, lads."
We've done it once or twice, because only at the end of the year, we used to fish Chew and Blagdon religiously for years and years. And on the last day, we'd normally fish the morning, come in for an hour, and we'd have a feast, really. We'd have like cheese, pickles, wine, and this and the other, you know. And practically every time, we never went back out then.
Yeah, I know.
And somebody had to have a short straw and drive, like. It's nice to do that, and you've got the same few people together.
Yeah. I try and encourage people to bring a packed lunch. At least they get in more of a fishing day rather than just a morning fishing and then eating and drinking all afternoon. But
how was your season been?
I've had a brilliant season. Guiding wise, it's been very busy. I've been flat out 4 or 5 days a week, every week. I think early on we were struck with bad weather, but when the river picked up and the weather conditions picked up, I had bookings flooding in, pardon the pun, but it's been a busy year, very busy.
Not just here, you're a guide here for the Gliffaes, and for
Glan Usk Estate, I do a lot of work down there. I also guide through WUF, through the Glan Usk Foundation. I'm registered with them, and I pick up a lot of private work through my own website and things as well.
Well, how long have you been Gillian here?
I was looking back a little while ago, and I did my level 2 coaching course, and that was 2010, and that's when it all kicked off. Yeah, and I remember it quite clearly because it was a year my mum passed away, and I was booked in to do my level 2, and I was there the week after she passed away, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was
your head was
it was all over the place. And there was a guy on the course called Trevor Smith, and he'd gone through the same sort of thing quite recently, and he got me through it, really.
So how did you get involved with Gliffaes?
Yeah, there's a local gilly guy called Jimmy Devoy who guided here for years and years and years, and Jimmy was starting to get on a bit and decided to hang up his waders, and he put my name forward to James and Susie, the hotel owners, and yeah, it all went from there. I know Jimmy from, he was president of Crook Owl Fishing Club, and I'm a member of the club, or a committee member there as well. So I know Jimmy quite well, and yeah, that's how it started.
So river is your thing more than lakes, yeah?
I'd say so, yeah, definitely.
So how did it all start for you?
Well, it's quite interesting actually. As a kid, I'm from my steg originally.
Oh, you?
Yeah. And when I was about 10-year-old, I used to watch my next door neighbour every Saturday morning, put his fishing kit in his car, and then he'd come back in the evening, pull all his kit out, he'd have a bag full of fish, him and his mate. His name was Merlin and his mate was called Aubrey, two old guys. And I used to sit and watch them leave, come back with all these fish. And I was out on my bike there one day and they came home. I said, where are you catching those fish then?
The trout, eh?
Yeah, trout. And the guy, my neighbour, he worked for Port Albert Steelworks. And he fished Eglwys Nunnet because they get a ticket to the work. And he told me, he explained about it, and I said, well, how'd you catch them? He said, oh, we tie flies and we catch them, using this method called fly fishing. He said, come over to my house Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock. I said, okay. So I knocked his door, in I went.
So how old would you be then?
I was 10.
Oh, right, yeah.
10. And so in his kitchen, he had this contraption set up on his table. And he said, I'm going to show you how to tie a fly. I said, oh, okay. I know nothing about flies or fly fishing. I sat there, watched him tie a couple of flies. And he said, what do you think? I said, oh, I'd like to have a go. He said, come in next Wednesday. So the following Wednesday, knocked the door, in we went. There were 2 vices set up on the table. So he said, I'm going to tie something and I want you to copy me. And he actually taught me how to tie flies. And I remember it quite well. My memory's not brilliant, but there's certain things I remember in life. And he would always tie an Alexandra fly.
Wow,
which isn't the easiest fly to tie when you're 10 years old and starting off. So for weeks and weeks and weeks, I used to go in on a Wednesday evening, and he said, "You've got to learn this fly. You've got to fish with this. This is what catches you fish." I said, "Yeah, okay." So obviously he wasn't a teacher or anything. He just tied for himself, and he was trying to teach me how to make these flies. And anyway, I probably tied flies for about 8 or 9 months and never cast a fly rod. So I was just learning, and we were talking, and he was telling me stories about the fishing. And one Christmas, he came round, I think it was Christmas or the end of the year, he came round and said, I've got you a season ticket for next year to come fishing with me. And all the flies I tied to that year, he'd put into a box. And they were probably the worst box of flies you'd ever see. If I had them now, I'd probably laugh at them. But yeah, it's...
An Alexandra as well.
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time you used an Alexandra?
God, I don't know.
You don't do?
No.
All these wet flies, they caught fish, like, but now people don't use them.
No.
So you tied flies before you actually learned to cast a fly?
And he taught me to cast. I remember at the back of his bungalow, there was a narrow path, probably no wider than this room, probably about 4 or 5 foot wide. And I had the obligatory Woolworth rod, the white glass fibre rod with the green whippings on it.
Was it?
And he stuck a fly reel on it with a line. And I was casting this up and down a concrete path about 4 foot wide. And he was just trying to get my stop points, and he was going out, but not very far. But yeah, he did the job. And he said, right, we're fishing next season. And I used to go with him and this old guy, Aubrey. So these 2 old guys with this young kid. He come and got permission off my mum. Yeah, take him out of the way for the day. And yeah, I went down.
Well, that's something we got in common, because the first place I went fishing, the first time I cast a fly, the very first day, was Eglwys Nunnet.
Yeah.
I had 3 that day, actually. I lost my very first one, panicked, didn't know what to do. I just held the line tight. I
Yeah.
can see it now, leaping and leaping. And
Yeah.
off he came, like. But I was lucky enough I carried on. And
Well, the first thing I ever caught there was a bat
a bat?
on a back cast. Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it nighttime fishing?
It was, yeah, going into the evening, yeah. Yeah. And I fished all season with these guys, and they were catching fish after fish because they could get the distance.
Yeah.
And I was just playing around with this little rod. But I was learning, you know, every time I was getting a bit further and a bit further and a bit further. And the very last day of the season, I caught a fish just over a pound.
Last day of the season?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And I couldn't wait to take it home, show my mum, and get it cooked up for dinner. You know, so,
Yeah. Do you actually eat trout yourself?
Yeah, yeah,
You?
yeah.
You're one of the very few fishermen I know.
Yeah, I wouldn't kill any wild fish. But if I want one for the table, I'll go to a little reservoir stock place. And
Do you remember what fly you used? Was it Alexandra, was it?
I can't remember. I think it was on the top. I had a team of dries on, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just kept it simple. And it was, you know, in the evenings, and they were coming up on the top. So Merlin, my neighbour, he set me up with the rig. And
So when did you leave my stake to come here?
when I was about 13.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah.
So where are you actually living now then? Crickall?
I'm living in a little village called Clydach Gorge, just up from Gilwan.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, lovely little place, up on the mountain, out of the way. Yeah, got views for about 21 miles across to the Black Mountains, and just a little 2-bedroom bungalow. But I bought my first property in the same village, and it's only me and the wife there and the dogs now. My daughter's got her own place. So yeah, it's I like it there. It's quiet.
Yeah.
I don't think I could live in a town or a city. It's just not for me.
No, I can imagine that. You know the Usk as good as most people then?
Yeah, well, I guess I fished it for, it'll be 35 years probably, so on and off.
So as regarding the guiding then, like obviously you're busy from, I guess, April through to the end of the season?
Yeah, mid-April it sort of kicks off. March is always a cold month. We get those nasty easterly winds, and it's always freezing cold on the Usk in March. If the weather's good, we'll start earlier, you know, but I'd say mid-April it kicks off with decent hatches of flies, and you want it to be productive for your clients, really. You know, you don't want them going out there battling winds and freezing cold and not catching anything. So I want them to go away happy.
So I guess the days which you aren't guiding, if the fishing's good, you'll spend time in the river anyway then?
Yeah. Obviously, if I'm out on the river most of the day, I know when certain days are fishing well, and I might either stop on or go home and come back for an evening and have a couple of hours fishing myself.
Like where we are now, above the river in the Gliffaes, you said there's 3 beats below us, is it?
Yeah, this part of the water is split into 3 sections. You've got a salmon pool at the bottom end, and then you've got the middle and top beat, which is really good trout water. But they've also got another beat 2 miles upstream called Llandeti, and that gets fished a lot less because it's a little bit out of the way. You need a 4x4 to get there, really. But that's a nice bit of water too.
Like the Usk is known, isn't it, for trout, really, for the trout fishing.
Yes,
but
yes.
the salmon fishing, how good is salmon fishing on the Usk?
Well, when we get water, we'll get fish. Simple as that. But the last couple of seasons, the amount of, you know, the dry weather we've had, the low water, fish just won't run, obviously. But I fished end of the season, the last day with Alan Rees down on Iska Water, and we saw a number of fish down there. As always, the season ends and then the rain comes. So, which is good for the fish, I guess. At least they can push up and spawn.
I think it was the last week of the season. We had some rain, and I had some guests on the Glan Usk, actually. I went there about 3 days before, and I thought, there's no way they're going to fish. It was chocolate, about 4 foot above.
Yeah.
But funny enough, on the day, we thought we'd give it a go, and we hooked and turned over a couple of fish.
Yeah.
They didn't stick then, like, you know, but you could see they were brown.
Yeah.
But still nice to have. So, and that week, not just here, you know, there's the Neath, and there's a few of the rivers I'm familiar with, and they all came the same. Yeah.
Well, that weekend you were on there, I guided on there on the on the following Wednesday. And Guy had 11-pound fish on the bottom end of the beat there. And the day before, he had a 22-pounder down below Usk. So,
22?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, there's a stretch lower Llan Gibby.
Yes.
and where Paul have got a
Yeah, I've
syndicate.
been fished it with Paul a couple of times. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice water.
And there's a guy, a friend of mine, Mark Orsi, he fished it that week, and he had 2 in a space of 20 minutes or so between them. One was, I think it was 15, the other was 18, he said, you know.
Yeah,
And I was lucky one day. I went down with Paul and we fished the morning. And I saw 3 or 4 fish roll, salmon roll on the top. And I was covering them. And I thought, they're going to take now. It was silver, lovely.
yeah.
Big fish, double figures. Nothing. But my line did stop once. I struck and I was in. But it was a 2-pound shad.
Ah, nice. Yeah,
Different.
yeah. A lot of shad in the bottom end of the Usk.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you do much salmon fishing on that? Or guiding then?
I do guide a little bit. Obviously, because of the weather conditions, it's hard on the Usk through the summer months with the salmon fishing. So it's more trout fishing with the guiding, but I love my salmon fishing.
Yeah.
And I love just the casting side of it. It's like a totally different thing to the fishing. It's like a sport of itself. It's
The double-hand.
yeah, the casting is just I find it so addictive. What you can do with those rods and just whack out that line so far.
So who are you qualified with? GAIA?
GAIA, yeah. I'm a single-handed and double-handed qualified instructor. But I did my level 2 coaching as well before I did that, because I'd never done any teaching as such in life, and I needed to learn how to teach. So all well and good being able to cast and do all these, reach certain distances and do all these different casts, but if you can't teach it or get it across to someone,
Yeah.
the information's only good for me. So
Yeah.
so I had to learn how to teach as well. So the level 2 coaching was a good stepping stone as well for me.
What's your best salmon?
I think just over £16.
That's
That was off the Usk. That was on Crickhowl water down at Glan Lovely bright silverfish. I think it was early June, end of May, June I think it was. Obviously you cover the lies in the pools where you think there's going to be a fish, or where you see fish over the years if you're on a river. But I'm not one to stay there and just flog it. I'll run a fly through. If it doesn't take, it doesn't take. I'll move down. I may come back up and fish it with a heavier fly or a different colour fly.
You wouldn't fish like half hour or so in a pool. You'd be less than that.
Yeah. I mean, if that fish is looking to feed and he wants your fly, usually I find it's first couple of casts and bang, you're in.
I found that.
Or it can be the last cast of the day type of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just like to cover water really, and I think, especially with a salmon, I think the more water you cover, the more fish you cover, and every now and then you'll come across one who wants to take your fly.
Yeah. And I guess that if you've seen the fish in a pool, the chances are there's more fish in other pools.
Yes.
So it's a case of
I'm
going
not-
through them all and trying to cover as many as you can
Yeah.
on the first few casts.
Yeah, not only that, if I've seen that fish, who else has seen the fish and who else has casted at it, and
Yeah.
how many flies has that fish seen? And
So would you go through the different pools with the same flies and then go back with different flies then?
yeah, I mean, it depends on the pool and the flow. So obviously, certain pools in certain parts of the river, you need to fish differently. So if I need a heavier fly, I'll put a heavier fly, or if I want the fly to work in a certain way, you have to have a certain pattern to make that happen, So
Yeah.
I don't stick to one thing all the time. Chop with changing tips for different depths. But I've had most success on the Usk on a full floating line. Every fish I've caught has been on a floating line.
For salmon?
Yeah, I don't know whether that's coincidence or... But I do tend to fish...
You don't fish tips?
I do,
Oh yeah.
but I never caught down deep. But I do tend to fish the Usk when the river's up and the fish are running more. So when you're fishing for running fish, they are going to be higher in the water, I guess. If you're fishing holding pools, then you want to get down a bit deeper. So it's horses for courses, really. It's different methods for different situations.
Yeah. So saying that now, I remember I fished a river in Iceland, Havalsa, I think I pronounced it right. And this one pool, they got amazing pools there. This one pool apparently was about 80 foot deep.
Wow.
Right? And it was obviously like a waterfall coming down into it. And the guy who was with the guide, he said, no, just stick with the floating line, he said,
Yeah.
And I had this fly, I think it was called a mouse. It didn't look like a mouse, but it was like a lure really more than anything. And I cast out and I thought, I'm fishing 80 foot of water, big pool. What's the chance of someone coming up and taking
Yeah.
it? Bang. First cast
Yeah.
into a 10-pound sea trout.
Well,
Screamed down the pool. The pool's about 80 yards long. Like. I had to run after it. Brilliant fish. Like.
yeah.
Because they're not necessarily deep if it's a deep pool, is it?
No.
Especially if they're ready to move on. I
Yeah,
guess.
migratory fish, they're looking to move, aren't they? So
Yeah.
if they're on the bottom, I don't suppose they can gauge what's happening. If they're at the top of the water, they know whether they can clear the next obstacle or not, I guess. So.
Don't suppose you've done much sea trout fishing, have you?
I've done it once or twice. Actually had one off the test actually this year in May.
All right.
Went down the bottom end with a friend to do a bit of salmon fishing, which was totally different to what I'm used to down there. Single-handed rod and big weighted nymphs. But there's a pool at the top end, and I shouldn't really say, but we were told by the gilly to use this technique all day, you know, flick this nymph through, let it come down, twitch it up. Anyway, it didn't work all day long, so there's a pool at the top, and I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to put a black and silver fly on, cast it across and strip it, see what happens. Bang, first cast, sea trout. So, yeah. So I do apologise to the guys down there, but yeah, but it worked, you know.
You gotta know, use what you know, innit?
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
But,
And to me, that was more. It's more to how I know salmon fishing.
yeah.
Cast across and work the fly rather than this little flicking a nymph upstream from him.
If you enjoy listening to my podcast and want to listen to more exclusive content and support this channel, please consider becoming a Patreon. As a Patreon, you will get 2 extra podcast episodes. That's one every week, plus 1 bonus content every month, which could be a podcast or video. Plus, access to photography, behind the scenes, accompanying each episode, the venues, the action, the fish, and you can actually see the fly patterns. I will be also offering 10% off my shop products, whether it's signed prints or the gilly kettles. So keep me in mind for your Christmas shopping. Subscription costs from only £5 a month. That's right, just a £5. So if you've enjoyed my podcasts, please consider becoming a Patreon. Links can be found on my website, castingwithcerijones.com, or Facebook and Instagram.
Have you actually fallen in?
Touch wood, I've never fallen in myself. I've been with loads of people that have. I've had clients that have gone in.
Have you?
I actually had a couple of years. When would it have been? August, I think. So the weather was pretty good. And took them down. They'd never fished before. Done a lot of shooting and things together. And I just said, it's really tricky wading here on the hotel, especially certain beats. I said, just be careful with the wading. Take a stick. I've got a couple of wading staffs there. Take one of those. And so her husband had moved downstream, and she was, oh, look at him, he's casting really well. And she turned round to watch him, went straight over a boulder, bang, straight under. So I leant forward, grabbed the front of her waders, pulled her straight up. And she was like trying to catch her breath because the water was cold. I thought, oh, you take her to the bank. She said, no, I'm fine. Anyway, she said, just go and deal with my husband, I'll go and get dried off and I'll come back. I said, yeah, okay. So I'm down with her husband, and he turns around, he's like, oh, she's at it again. So I turned around to have a look like that, and she stood on a bank in a little black bikini. And I'm like, oh, okay. She said, oh, since I'm wet now, I'm going to have a swim. Boosh, straight in she went and just swam up the pool. These guys were like late 60s. Yeah, didn't bother at all, didn't faze her at all. She said, oh, since I'm wet, I'll have a swim.
I took a guy and his 2 sons up, what was the name of it? Right up the top of the Usk, towards Senny Bridge, Pantascala. Right. And this guy, was hilarious. I had to laugh, right? Because obviously it's going to be quite scary for some. And thing is, he wanted specifically to fish this Pantascala because he lived nearby. Okay. And you wouldn't go there, right? It's just it's a gorge basically, like overgrown. And but we did, and we spent some time, and I was teaching him this, and he was desperate keen. I got to get a fish, and his boys were saying, we got to go, and I waited after 6 o'clock, and he said, no, I got to get another fish, and then there was a fish rose, and he only went until he had, and he just turned round, as you said, like you lose your balance, you turn round. Yeah. next thing, he wobbled, right? And he did a pirouette, he did now, right? But, you know, instead of going splashing,
Yeah.
you know, in that moment, you know you're going in, but you're
Yeah,
trying to...
you can't do anything about it.
And he went round like a pirouette. Next thing, bloosh, he went, like, innit? Luckily, it was the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it was so funny, though. And I was creased laughing, like, you know.
Yeah.
And he found the funny side of
Yeah, I
it.
had one guy on Glan Usk, two guys out together, both fished before previously, good anglers, and the water was fine, there was a little bit of colour to it. And on Glan Usk Estate there's a pool called the Church Pool.
I know.
And it's pretty deep there. It goes off, it's got to be 14 foot deep, I expect. Anyway, they were salmon fishing and they were working their way down. And I said to the guy, I said, look, if you can't see the bottom, do not wade. Use your stick and feel it, because there are drop-offs. Yeah, I'll be fine. So I'm downstream with his mate now, looking back upstream every now and then to keep an eye on him. And I could see him just creeping forward and creeping forward. And I said to his mate, he's going to go in now. He said, is he? I said, yeah. And with that, I turned again, looked up, and all I could see was the tip of his rod coming out of this pool. So we run up, got him up, and because he had chest waders on, we pulled him up the bank, got him out. And I didn't know at the time, but he used to be a canoe instructor. So he was quite used to being in the water, so he was fine, you know. He was like, again, he just went back to the car, dried himself off, changed back in.
That's one thing I've learned over the years. Always in my car. It's now, any time of the year, whatever, fishing or not, always got a bag of spare clothes.
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing worse than driving all
Oh, I
the wet
got
gear, is it?
balls of socks rolling around in the boot all over the place. And yeah.
I bet now that the season's ended now, and you're twiddling your thumbs now, waiting. Or will you actually fish in the winter now?
Well, this year I've actually got a bit of a fixation with pike fishing on the fly.
Right.
And I've become a little bit addicted to it, I think. I was supposed to be out yesterday, but the weather was, I was going to go to Langors, but the weather was a bit horrendous really for fly fishing, so
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I've postponed it. But I'm going to be down on Chew on Sunday with a couple of lads, so looking forward to that.
I got
on the fly.
mixed feelings, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
it's nice to
maybe
see, and it's good.
Yeah.
It's good buzz, and you got a big fish on,
Yeah.
no doubt. Like, but to the detriment of the trout fishing, I think, really.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Langors isn't a trout fishery, so I fish obviously it's local water for me, and I've got my own boat, and I can take it up and.
Well, you can put your own boat at Glangors, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Didn't they used to have some just like punts almost?
Yeah, they've got boats there you can hire, but you're restricted then. You've got to come in at 4 o'clock. If you've got your own boat, you can stay out till dark or just
Is
before
it a
dark.
slipway, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I launch mine. I take mine up on the trailer and
And you can use your own
we
engine?
launch it. Yeah.
Are you restricted to electric or use petrol?
No, I got an electric outboard and I've got a electric as well, just for pushing up onto the fish.
What size is the pike up in Langors then?
From what I understand, there's a few 20s in there and 20 pluses. So I've only had up to £8-9 I think I've had so far. I had a nice lumper off Chew. Third time out actually. I fished on Langors twice. And then I joined the Pike Fly Fishing Association, basically to get some information and to learn a bit, you know. And they invited me to fish a competition on Chew. So I rang my mate Lee. I said, Lee, I've booked us in for this competition. He said, what do you mean you've booked us in for a competition? He said, we've only done it twice. I said, well, we'll give it a go. And I went up and I come third. So
Did you?
yeah, 16.5 fish. Short leader, wire trace, big flies. I find it exciting. I know a lot of people, it doesn't float their boat, but I'm enjoying it. Yeah, and tying the flies is something else as well.
I haven't fly fish a pike. I've caught loads of pike when I'm in Ireland, when I'm fishing with ferrox.
Yeah.
And they become a nuisance then, because every day, because you're setting up this bait, and you got the mounts all sorted, and then it takes time. And then you got them out, next thing the rod goes, and you got a pike, and you got to do it again, then, you know. But
thing is, you put dead baits out, any big predator is going to be looking for it.
Yeah.
So.
Where was it now? The pike angler might have been Chew. I think it was. Had a 22 trout.
Yeah.
22-pound trout, a brown trout. It would have been, it was Chew. This week, I think, or was it last week?
Wow.
It goes to show, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because fly fishing, you won't catch big trout on a fly. Like, well, so you won't. You always the odd, exception. But like when I'm fishing for the trout in Ireland, I'm using like £0.5 to £1 roach.
Yeah.
So those fish ain't going to take a fly.
No.
So that's why they catch them
But then again, I've had people tell me a mate of mine's fished trout fishing, and he's had a 30-pound pike on a buzzer,
Yeah.
you know. And I've caught rainbow trout on my pike flies, and fish smashing these flies half the size of the fish. So
Yeah.
you just don't know, do you?
I remember I had permission to troll on Llys of Ran years ago now, and with big flies, because we thought Tony Davis was running it then. He said, "Oh, give it a try," he said. And we did. We had 2 days there with these big flies deep down, and like you said, we were having £1.5 rainbows all the time. In the end, we stopped doing it, you know.
Yeah.
Regarding your boat, you've obviously got a trailer.
Yes.
What boat is it?
It's a 12.5 foot. It's a Foreland Marine, which was built in 1970, which is the same year I was born.
Oh, right, yeah.
I've got all the original paperwork for the boat and the trailer, all the original sales receipts and everything from it. I think it was 200 and something quid the boat at the time.
Was it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a story actually. How I come to have the boat. I had a couple of clients that used to come and stay at the Bay Hotel, and they rang me one time and said, "Oh, can you take us fishing on the Usk?" Yeah, okay. So I took them out, did a bit of trout fishing. Both enjoyed it. 2 elderly guys, both retired, both live on their own. They just meet up every now and then, go fishing, and they started coming every year, and then it was twice a year. And the one year, the guy Jeffrey rang me up. He said, "Oh, do you fancy coming to Scotland with us?" I said, "Well, am I fishing or am I guiding you guys?" "Oh, no, come fishing, but we may need a bit of assistance," type of thing. And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll come and give it a go."
It's difficult to
So-
work out how to charge them then. isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't charge him. It was a boys' trip
Yeah.
away. It was just,
yeah.
we were there, I just went as a fishing trip. And they say what it is, a friend of ours has bought the Scoury Hotel,
Where's that?
which is right up on the north tip, right up in Sutherland, up in Larg. Very famous fishing hotel, bit like the Gliffaes. He's got 300 locks, a couple of river systems and 50 miles of coastline. And these 3 guys were in school together in Essex. So anyway, this guy Richard has bought the hotel. So he said, "Oh, we want to go up and visit him and have a few days there, you know." So I went up with him, and the year I went, he just purchased a few new boats on a couple of the locks. So I was quizzing him about the boats, and this guy Jeffrey I went up with, he said, why are you questioning him about these bloody boats all the time for? I said, "Oh, well, I wouldn't mind getting one for back home, you know, maybe take out down some of the local lakes." And he said, "Oh, I've got a boat in my garage." I said, "All right." I said, "Do you want to sell it?" No. I said, "Okay." And left it at that, you know. And when we got back home, he sent me an email with these photographs of this boat. Lovely looking thing. The trailer, the outboard, the oars, the old shebang, you know, full kit. And he said, I don't really want to sell it. I said, "Well, stop teasing me with the pictures then, you know." And he said, "No, I don't want to sell it, but I'd like you to have it." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, and with that, he sends me this email with I should have brought a copy of it. It was something like, "This boat is to be transferred of ownership from Jeffrey Brown to Justin Connolly. In the demise of Justin Connolly, the boat is returned to Jeffrey Brown. And in the demise of Jeffrey Brown, the boat is to be kept by Justin Connolly." And it was this big thing. He said, "Sign this," he said, "and then come and pick it up. It's all yours." So I said, "Yeah," and that's what I did. And he said, "The only thing I want in return," he said, "is a day's fishing on the Usk once a year for the rest of my life." He said, "Bearing in mind I'm 75, that's not many days fishing." So he said, "I think you're onto a winner."
Jeez,
So I
that's
said,
all right,
"Like I
isn't it?
said, you can come up anytime you like, and I'll take you out. Or bring some mates up, I'll take you out as much as you want, you know." So yeah, I drove down to Cornwall, picked the boat up, and got it all ready, got all my kit ready for the pike, and then lockdown hit and didn't get it out for a year and a half. So
Have you got what outboard engine you got?
I've got a Mariner 5 on there.
All right, it's
Yeah,
ideal for
yeah,
for you,
perfect for
isn't
the local lakes.
it? Yeah, I got a boat on the Carib. It's 19 foot, and I was after one for a while, but they were like, they crazy money still, like, you know,
Yeah,
3.5
yeah.
grand, something like that.
Yeah,
And I was waiting and biding my time, so I had a good friend, John Buckley from Killarney. I said, "Keep an eye open for a boat for me." And funny enough, then he wasn't long, a couple of weeks. He said, "I've got a boat for you," he said, €1,000. And I said, "Oh, passes not up to much, like,
Yeah,
innit?"
yeah.
And he said, No, he said it belonged to a barrister when he fishes after in times of year. So this guy, he just retired
Yeah.
and he wanted a new one again.
Okay.
But the boat he had, which I now got, it had been used.
Yeah.
So it's like a new one, you know.
Yeah, brilliant.
So I was lucky. So he brought it up to me, fair enough. But I'm going to trailer. But I got friends there if I need to move in it, you know. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind getting one from over here, though. Because apparently you put your own boat on Pond Stick and, like you said, Langos. It'd be something to do, nice to do.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, if you ever fancy a day out on it, let me know. I'll take
That'd
you
be
up.
nice. Do you tie flies yourself?
I
well,
do
I know
tie.
you tied
Yeah.
them at the time. Do you
I
tie
mean,
them now?
I'm not, I wouldn't class myself as a great fly tyer, but I tie flies that catch fish,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. And I just tie for myself. I don't, I mean, if people want some flies, I'll give them flies, but they're certainly not good enough to sell, you know, I don't think.
I'm the same. When I sit down, I'll tie half a dozen flies.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these. I'll tie a box full.
Well, I try and tie boxes. I'll tie boxes and boxes of nymphs, like I've just done a load now, ready for next season. But it's all guiding fodder. They all end up in the bottom of the river or in a tree. So I just tie quick patterns, nice and easy to tie, because I know half of them would be lost.
I thought you ever seen a picture you put up on Facebook, did you?
Yeah, I put a picture of a couple of
like
boxes. I tie a lot of pheasant tails, because I've done a lot of pheasant shooting over the years, and I've got tons of pheasant tails all around the house. So
Make the most of it.
yeah, I just use them up, and it's a great material. The colour's right. It looks good on the fly, you know, and I've got them there, so I just use them up. Yeah,
It's a funny thing with flies, isn't it? You can have 100 different partners in a box. It's only half a dozen really go-to patterns, which I'll use through the season.
Yeah, likewise. Trouble is with me, I got so many friends who are fantastic fly tyers.
Yeah.
The likes of Mark Roberts, Alan Rees, Paul Slaney, good friends with them all, and I can't compare myself to those guys, you know. They're just a different league to me. It's
What's the saying, isn't it? Tie for throw or tie for show.
yeah.
I definitely tie for throw.
Yeah,
I was into it, you know, when I was 12, you know, and I did competitions then, but after a while you just like...
Yeah.
The thing is, you've got to get a lot of materials as well.
Yes, and good materials.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I was talking to Jimmy Tarrell this week.
Okay.
And he's the same. Even though you have a lot of places now which offer fly tie materials online, there's no better way than to see it.
Yeah.
You know, especially capes and...
Yeah. So you know, talking to these guys, they've all said that. They said, if you're looking for good materials, pick them up, handle them, have a look at you know, check out the fibres and make sure it's good stuff, you know, because you could buy anything online. My
vice is about 20 years old, and I'm thinking the last couple of weeks, actually, about getting a nice one. Yeah. Yeah. What do you tie on?
I've actually got a low voice.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. But I was lucky enough to be... It was my father-in-law's who passed away last year.
Oh, right.
And that was the one thing he insisted, don't let anybody have that voice, take it away. It's yours, he said. So...
I've seen them go for like about $2,000, some of these ones.
I think the last one I saw was 3,500 so far. Yeah. I'll never sell it. They'll stay in the family.
And there's something nice about it work. It's like anything, you can probably tie just as good a fly with a cheaper voice. Yeah. But it's nice to have, and it gives you incentive to sit by the voice. I like having nice things, you know. It's like a car. You can get from A to B in a £500 banger, but you know, if you got something a bit more comfort and heated seats, it's just more comfortable. So. And it's nice to own, you know. It is nice. And it's got sentimental value for me, that. So have you got any goals lined up now for
the winter
or the next year even?
The biggest thing I've got on my mind now is my daughter's getting married in February 23, and they've decided to get married in Barbados.
So you're tying bonefish flies?
Yes. So I'm getting some kit together. I've got a guide booked and hopefully do a bit of big game stuff out there as well if I get a chance. Obviously the wedding is the priority, but the fishing is...
Is Paul coming with it?
Well, he's mentioned it. I hope he does. Yeah, that'll be a good crack. That's a big thing to look forward to. The pike through the winter, I'm going to do as much of that as I can because I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying tying the horrendous looking flies and the big stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm using stuff in my fly tying kit that I've never had use for before, you know.
Yeah,
Stuff you buy and I think, oh, well, what am I going to do with that? You know, but with pike flies, you can chuck anything into it, and it seemed to be working for me. So
yeah, I don't think there's any. Wouldn't have thought you got to be so critical with the patterns of pike.
Nah, I don't think so. I don't
Just
think.
like savages.
Yeah, my flies are okay. I'm happy with them. I catch fish on them, so as long as the fish are happy with them, that's the main thing.
You got a heavy outfit then? You got like a...
Yeah, I use, so my go-to is a 9'9" weight. I'm going to get myself a 9'10" weight as well now for the bigger flies. But I've been fishing with guys now and they all say, you only need flies up to 2 inches long, you don't need anything big. And when I watch them fishing, I think the only reason they fish in small flies is because they can't cast the big flies. And every time I put a big fly on, I'm hitting the bigger fish.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you know. And from what I understand, it makes sense to me, you know. So
yeah.
But I'll cast as big a fly as I can cast, and hopefully catch the biggest fish in the water.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
I've enjoyed our chat, and I guess this leads us on to the one question, which I guess you know what it's going to be. Where would you want to be to make your last cast?
Well, I've listened to a number of your podcasts, and I've thought about this, and God, there could be so many places, but I think really to come full circle, well, I made my first cast on Eglwys Nanydd, probably go back there and have my last cast there as well. And perhaps we could do it together. We both had our first fish there, our first cast there. Yeah, go back. But really, I'd be happy to cast a fly anywhere. But I think if I had to name somewhere, I'd probably go back there just to sort of
Full circle.
put a cap on it, and that's where I started and that's where I'll end.
Well, many thanks. Hopefully, maybe we'll have a crack at the pike on Llangos. I'd love to give that a go.
Yeah, anytime.
In this winter.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go up there now. Probably I'll give it a couple of sessions now, see how it's going, and when it starts getting good, I'll give you a shout and
Brilliant.
we'll head up.
Thanks, Justin.
That's been good. Enjoyed that.
Cheers.
If this is your first time tuning in, make sure you catch all future episodes by clicking subscribe via the links on my website, castingwithcerijones.com, or via iTunes or your favourite podcatcher. If you like what you've heard on this episode, feel free to drop me a line via my website. Tell me what you've enjoyed, ask a question, or better yet, tell me what you want to hear more of in the future. And if you're looking for additional tips, tackle reviews or venue information, or just want to see what's been hit in the back of my net lately, search up Casting with Ceri Jones on Facebook or follow me on Instagram. And if you still want more, I'm regularly uploading video content onto the Casting with Ceri Jones YouTube channel, so just check that out and subscribe over there too. Wherever you follow, subscribe, comment or message, I look forward to catching up soon for a good fishing chat. Well, I think that's all for now, so until next time, tight lines and don't strike too soon.